You know that feeling, right? That constant pull, a notification buzzes over here, an endless feed scrolls over there. It feels like your focus is being sliced up into 1,000 tiny pieces. You're trying to get one thing done, but it's like the entire digital world is tapping you on the shoulder, whispering, hey, look over here. Well, that's not an accident, it's a design. Welcome to the attention economy, where your focus isn't just some abstract concept, it's a multi-billion-dollar commodity.
And this whole idea, it's actually not that new. Way back in 1971, an economist named Herbert A. Simon totally saw this coming. He figured out a fundamental truth about the world we live in now. When information is basically infinite, the one thing that becomes incredibly scarce, incredibly valuable, is our attention. It's a finite resource. There are only so many hours in a day. And in a world that is screaming for your focus, maybe the most important decision you make is where you choose to spend it.
So to really get our heads around how this all works, we're going to peel back the layers. First, we'll define what this new currency of attention really is. Then we'll dive into the business model that makes it all go. We'll even meet the guy who pretty much predicted this entire thing decades ago. After that, we'll look at some surprising data about our own online habits, talk about the very real price we're paying for all this, and finally, figure out what it takes to actually win in this new landscape.
All right, first things first, let's nail down exactly what we're talking about. What does it actually mean for our attention to be a kind of currency?
Think of it like this. The biggest competition online today isn't really for your wallet, at least not directly. It's a full-on battle for your eyeballs, for your minutes, for your focus. In this system, every single second you spend scrolling a feed, watching a video, or clicking a link, that's a transaction. And here's the kicker. In that transaction, you're not the customer. You're actually the product. You're paying with your attention, and that attention is being packaged up and sold to the highest bidder.
So, if our attention is the product, how exactly does it get sold? Let's get into the mechanics. This is the engine that drives the whole attention economy, the business model behind all those free apps we use every single day.
We've all had this thought, right? If this app is free, how on earth is it worth billions of dollars? Well, the answer is simple, but it's also kind of profound. They aren't selling you a piece of software. They're selling advertisers something way more valuable. They're selling influence. The more of your attention they capture, the more data they gather on you, and the more precisely they can sell advertisers the ability to influence what you buy, what you do, and even what you think.
And the scale of this is, it's just staggering. Just take Facebook, which also owns Instagram and WhatsApp. Its valuation hovers around $700 billion. That is a global empire built not on a physical product, not on software you buy, but entirely on its incredible ability to capture and then sell the attention of billions of people. So how does a company get to be worth that much? The author Shoshana Zuboff explains it perfectly. What these companies are really selling is certainty. They can go to an advertiser and promise, with almost scary accuracy, we are certain we can show your ad to people between 25 and 30 who live in this specific city, who love hiking, and who are probably going to buy a new car in the next 6 months. And how do they get that certainty? It all starts with one thing: mountains and mountains of data, your data. And this whole model is just getting smarter and more invisible. Take native advertising. You know those ads that are designed to blend in so they don't even look like ads? Like a sponsored article in your newsfeed or an influencer's post? That market is projected to hit $400 billion by 2025. That's a 372% jump in just 5 years. The goal is to capture our focus so smoothly that we don't even realize our attention is being sold.
Okay, let's go to the next layer, because here's the wild part. None of this happened by accident. In fact, one thinker basically drew up the blueprint for this entire system before most of us had even heard of the internet.
His name is Michael Goldhaber. People have called him the Cassandra of the internet age, and for a really good reason. Back in the mid-1980s, when everyone was getting excited about the coming information superhighway, he saw something else. He saw an information glut, and he had this huge realization. If information is everywhere, human attention becomes the scarcest resource on the planet, and a whole new economy would be built around it. And his predictions were chillingly specific. In the 80s, he figured out that since attention is a zero-sum game, if you pay attention to one thing, you have to ignore something else, it would create a brand new kind of inequality between the attention rich and the attention poor. Then, in 1997, he wrote this now famous essay for Wired, where he predicted a star system, what we now call influencers, and the relentless pressure we'd all feel to get attention. And get this, by 2006, before the iPhone was even a thing, he warned that living through these technologies would mean you were never not on. Sound familiar?
So we've got Goldhaber's theory, we've got the business model, but what does the actual data say about us, about the people caught in the middle of all this? Let's peel back another layer and look at a study that found something really counterintuitive about how we behave online.
If you look at this period of massive online change from 2008 to 2013, you can see that what we were paying attention to changed. A lot. We went from spending most of our time on things like instant messaging and news sites to almost exclusively watching videos and being on social media. Our tastes were all over the place.
But here is the fascinating twist. While the websites and apps we visited changed completely, our underlying browsing patterns, the fundamental way we give out our attention, it stayed incredibly rigid. It was almost perfectly stable during 5 years of massive technological upheaval. So the researchers measured 2 key things. First was focus. Basically, how many different sites do we really spread our attention across? And the second was dwelling. How deeply do we engage with the sites we visit? And what they found was that both of these stayed remarkably stable. We consistently focus our attention on just a small handful of sites, and we consistently dwell on them. Our core attention habits are surprisingly fixed, and this is the secret sauce for these platforms. They don't have to change our deep-seated behaviors. They just have to build systems that are perfectly engineered to exploit them. So let's put the pieces together. We have an economic system designed to capture our attention at all costs, and we have these hardwired, stable attention patterns that make us really predictable targets. When you combine those 2 things, well, you get a perfect storm. So we have to talk about the consequences. What is the real price we're all paying?
Well, according to the Center for Humane Technology, the harms they're pretty widespread. On a huge societal level, this endless race for engagement warps our sense of reality with misinformation and shoves our politics into polarized echo chambers. And then on a personal level, it can weaken our real-world relationships. It literally disrupts our ability to focus and form memories, and it's been linked to serious declines in both our mental and physical health. It can even make societal problems worse by amplifying biases through its algorithms.
And this just perfectly captures the political cost, bringing us right back to our prophet, Michael Goldhaber. He was worried that in the attention economy, any kind of calm, rational debate would be impossible. He said it would be drowned out by the loudest and most ridiculous, simply because loud and ridiculous are great at grabbing attention. And man, when you look at our public discourse today, it's pretty hard to argue that he was wrong.
Okay, I know that all sounds pretty grim, but it is not the end of the story. Let's get to our final layer and look at how smart businesses and smart individuals are starting to adapt. They're figuring out how to thrive in this new reality, not by fighting for scraps of our attention, but by actually earning it.
So how do you actually win in this economy? Well, the smartest players are starting to change the rules. Instead of just chasing meaningless clicks, they're measuring things that actually matter, like, did someone pay attention long enough to actually form a memory? They're moving away from annoying, intrusive ads and towards creating valuable content that you want to engage with. And they're realizing that in an ocean of noise, the only thing that truly breaks through and connects with people is great, compelling storytelling. It all proves a really fundamental point. Real attention can't just be captured. It has to be earned.
Which brings it all right back to us, doesn't it? We understand the system now. We see the economic engine behind it. We know how our own predictable habits are being used, and we've seen the very real costs. The ultimate question isn't just for tech companies or advertisers. It's for every single one of us. Once you recognize that your focus is your most valuable asset, you have the power to be intentional with it. We are living in the world that Michael Goldhaber predicted, a world where our attention is our most precious and finite resource. So the question is, where are you paying yours?